You guys know who the biggest employer in the state of Nevada is? You've probably heard me say it on the channel here before, but they do own a whole bunch of properties right here on that beautiful street behind me, and it is none other than MGM Resorts, okay? They are the big kid on the block here in Las Vegas. You could pretty much say they are the Goliath here on the Strip. You can maybe make a case, you could probably make a case that Caesars is the second one, because between those two, they do have the majority of the casinos and hotels and properties here on Las Vegas Boulevard. But MGM, I would say, is certainly the bigger of the two, has more influence of the two. And that kind of is what brought me to do this video here, where I have to, oh yeah guys, subscribe too. I got more videos coming in the future, subscribe. But that's really what made me think about doing this video, is I had this idea some time ago, and then, you know, kind of just put on the back burner. And then in light of, you know, MGM raising the resort fees, with Caesars now most recently raising their resort fees at a few of their properties, you know, I think it's worth talking about MGM and the impact that they have here in Las Vegas, and how what they're doing now could affect them in the future. Because with MGM being so big, with MGM having so much influence, and the amount of employees they do, and, you know, the amount of money they do here in Las Vegas, when they make a change, it has a bigger impact than anybody else. So when MGM decides to raise, or actually even before we talk resort fees, let's talk about when MGM decided to start parking fees. That's an even better one, because MGM is the one who started the parking fees here in Las Vegas. So MGM started, right, not long after Caesars followed, and then, you know, Wynn and Encore, they followed as well. And, you know, so other places followed MGM. When MGM raised resort fees, which they've done several times in the last few years, you know, MGM will raise theirs, and then, you know, here comes Caesars, they'll raise theirs, or some other place will raise theirs. The thing with MGM, though, is they're probably the most aggressive in those changes of all these properties. And I say that because, you know, Wynn and Encore, they start charging for parking, but then they backed off and they pulled it. So now it's free over there again. You know, Venetian Palazzo, when MGM raised their resort fees to $45 a night at some of their properties, Venetian Palazzo have actually been at $45 a night for some time. But the Venetian Palazzo have free parking. Okay, MGM is really pushing the envelope on both of these things when it comes to resort fees, when it comes to charging for parking. You know, and really just the whole talk of fees and taxes in general when you come here to Las Vegas that you face. Sometimes it feels like for people, every time they turn around, they get another fee or another tax on something, whether it's a drink, whether it's a food bill, whether it's the ATM or whatever the heck it is, they're getting hit with some fee that like they didn't know about, or something that, you know, pretty much seems to only happen here in Vegas. So when MGM does that, it has that ripple effect. And the other thing too is it's not just MGM doing it and then maybe Caesars following. They also have where it can affect even the lower tier casinos and hotel properties that just, you know, are one property. Because if MGM raises resort fees, say up to $45 a night, then, you know, some other property who's like, well, hey, ours are only $19.99 a night, we can now raise them to $24.99 a night. We can raise it to $25, $27, whatever the case is, and now it still looks like a good deal compared to what MGM does. So they have that impact. They have that kind of influence here in Las Vegas. But the thing coming in the future that I'm kind of anxious to see how this plays out in the next few years is what is coming, and what MGM has done now and how it could affect them in the future, and what is coming in the future that could impact MGM. So what MGM is doing now, right? All the fees they're charging, the increase in fees they're doing that, you know, often lead to other places increasing fees, because usually MGM does it, someone follows. So even if the other property does it, like Caesars does it, well, you could say MGM did it first, because that's Caesars' whole explanation, is they're trying to keep up with their, you know, competitors. So MGM is going to be really the one to get the blame for raising these fees. And with MGM taking that blame, you know, in the next couple of years here, we're going to get, you know, next 2, 3, 4 years, Vegas is, you know, there's a good chance it's going to wind up going through some changes in terms of ownership and in terms of new players here on the Strip and really around town in general. Right now, you have Eldorado getting ready to come here, you know, into town, even though that transition is still waiting to get approved. You have Caesars, who has just sold the Rio, so you have the Rio's going to be under new ownership here coming soon. You have Resorts World coming to the Strip. That's going to be a mega resort when that is done. You have Circa going in downtown here in Las Vegas. So you have competition coming in downtown, on the Strip, off the Strip. You have new companies coming in. Even as Eldorado winds up taking over operations here, they still may sell off one of their properties. So they could be in a spot where they sell off to, you know, another new company who has no footprint here in Vegas yet, but that company's going to come in and they're going to do what they can to compete for their share. So MGM's looking at really a handful of new competition coming here into town, and I don't know that, you know, I mean, I just want to see how it's going to impact them. I want to see what's going to happen in the future. If that's going to force MGM to get better deals, if that's going to force MGM to maybe reduce resort fees, to reduce parking fees, things like that. Also, in a few years, a lot of people think that our economy is not going to be as good as it is right now. So the next few years, you're looking at really potential for MGM to be getting squeezed from two sides. One, from the economy, okay, so the economy is not doing good, that's not as good, not as many people coming to town, they don't have as much money to spend, so you have to offer more deals just in general. But on this side, you also have more competition coming in, you have more players into the market, they're going to increase the competition, which ultimately ends up being good for you, the individual. So, I mean, MGM might find themselves in a spot in a few years where, like, the walls are really crunching them in. And that may be why, part of the reason why they're charging why they are now, because they know right now a lot of people are coming to Vegas. The numbers are still doing well in terms of number of visitors coming every single month. So, you know, MGM's executives might be thinking, hey, we have to squeeze every single dollar we can while it's good, before the economy is not as strong, before the competition gets here, before all of those things. So, you know, I'm just thinking that some of the things MGM has done, I know a lot of you in the comments have said, you know, screw MGM, you said screw these properties on the strip, screw all of this stuff, you know, some of you said screw MGM, and you said screw Caesars, and you just, you know, done with a lot of these major corporations who are operating here. So I just wonder that in the future of MGM, you know, they're going to try to offer these deals, but really if they're not going to be able to get enough revenue as they need, maybe they'll have to sell off another property or something like that. That could wind up being the case. So I just want to see in the next couple of years if MGM's really able to hold their position they have right now, where they are the dominant player here in town. So I want to hear also what you have to say if you think MGM's going to be able to hold their dominant position here over the next few years. Will they be able to? Will the economy get to them? Will new competition get to them? You know, will they still be able to beat out everybody? Will they still be the big dog here? Will they have to sell off some properties because they're in a bad spot? So it's just kind of, you know, speculation, way for people to throw in their 2 cents on this. I'm just trying to look at some of the things they've done now and what could be coming in the future and other things that are coming this way that really could have a big impact on them, you know, positively or negatively. So I want to hear what you guys have to say about this down below in the comment section. Subscribe if you haven't done so to the channel yet, because you know I've always got other stuff I can talk about here in Las Vegas. I appreciate all of you guys watching. That's it for this video. I'm Jacob. This is My Life in Vegas.